regular meeting of Fairview Town Council. This time, Councilwoman Kelly will have our invocation.
Could we bow our heads in prayer? Our kind and gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we have experienced another beautiful day in our town of Fairview. We feel so blessed to live in the place where we've chosen to be. We ask your presence with us tonight as we consider issues that are important to all of us as residents here. Please guide our thinking. Please guide our decision making. Please hear our prayers and answer according to your holy will. Amen.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move to the agenda changes. I have one item. I'd like to remove item number 1 under business to approve the NCLM conference in April. We talked about whether or not this is cost effective, benefit cost, and something that I don't think that we really need to go to. So I'd like to remove item number 1 under business. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
All in favor? The motion carries. This time we'll move to public comments. Let me remind everyone that we have 3 minutes to speak. Teresa, our clerk, will be keeping time on that. And just to remind everyone that this is not a discussion time with us. This is your chance to tell us what you think, but it's not a back and forth discussion with council. So have Mr. and Mrs. I can't read that. Zabel. Okay, would you come to the microphone, state your name and address, please?
Could I hear other people's opinions first before I state mine?
You're signed up first. If you want to listen to everyone else's, that's fine.
Thank you.
We can move to the second one, Richard Laney.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us today. I want to first say thank you so much for 2.5 years ago, you guys letting us be Bellaterra. It's been a great business experience.
Would you state your name and address, please, for the record?
Yes, Richard Laney, 8920 Mill Grove Road.
Thank you.
The reason I came here tonight is we're having a little trouble with a neighbor that's directly behind us on North Helms Road. Mr. Gordon is trying to start an illegal hog farm that's backed up against our property. The water and wastewater runoff from this will eventually, and currently already is running onto our property now, by direct and natural grade the land. The smell and wastewater, if he were to start and do this hog farm, will be harmful for our health and the value of our property. We have approximately 100 neighbors less than a quarter mile away from this. Probably they will be also directly affected as well. He has been very uncompliant with this matter, as he has already ran off the state official telling him to get off his land. Against orders to stop, he has continued his hog farm illegally and building a fence and putting in hogs against neighbors' properties, and some of the fencing has been over onto other neighbors' properties. By state law, you're supposed to be 150 feet off your property before you can put a fence, any kind of animals up anyway. And he is in the town of Fairview. This needs to be addressed and stopped immediately, because this damage is going to be done to our property and business as well too. That's that's undoable. Also, under state law, he is against, he is causing nuisance and disturbing the air quality for individuals living in the community. Ammonia emissions from hog farms pose a serious public health threat. Ammonia emissions from hog farms react with other gases in the air to form pollution, a public health threat linked to decreased lung function and cardiovascular ailments and premature death. Research in North Carolina shows that neighbors living within 3 miles of hog farms experience elevated levels of respiratory complaints relative to those living near other animals' productions or crop production. Hog waste contains disease-causing pathogens and increased antibiotic resistance. Manure land applications rates as hog animal feeding operations results in high levels of pollutions in groundwater and poses risk for drinking water as well.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. I can't read this next name either. Someone on Noah Helms Road, 8907.
Yes, sir, that's me, Scott Helms, 8907. Noah Helms Road. First of all, thank you for allowing us to speak for a few moments tonight to the mayor and the council and staff that's here. And also want to say thank you for the efforts that's already been done by your staff in communications with our neighbor. And we also say that I'd be the last one to try to tell another man what he can or cannot do on his property. I think we all own our property within certain rights. We can do whatever we want to. But if you're doing things that affects your neighbor's property in a negative way, that's something that ought to be taken in consideration with each of us as landowners. Also recognize that Fairview is a agricultural community. But let me point out a few things. When we first purchased our property after a pretty good search, we landed on the property we have now at 8907. And it's 8¼ acres approximately. There was no animals or hog production at all until our neighbor started it. And once he started it, after a series of about a year, you can't even walk the driveway without the stench coming across. And we've noticed a fairly significant increase in flies and that sort of thing from animals. I have no idea what his plans are, but my concerns are that he's going to increase his production. I think I've heard that possibly he was looking at breeding hogs and selling them for a profit. I don't know. We've not communicated. But by the large number that I've witnessed there on his property, that's my concern, is that this area is going to continue. The town here has an Article 175 that prohibits anyone in a residential area having livestock within 150 feet of any of the neighbors' boundaries, unless you're a bona fide farm. My concern is that Mr. Gordon is moving forward trying to get the bona fide farm, even though, and by the way, what I understand, you have to have 10 productive acres and 3 years of commercial receipts to receive a bona fide farm. Currently he doesn't have that, although it appears that he's moving forward to encircle more of his property and fence to make it more productive. The problem is, you run back to that 150-foot border again. If you, for example, the back of his property is only 315 feet wide, and his property directly is next to our property, my wife, Melanie, myself. So if you come in 150 feet from every property boundary, you only got 15 feet. He has roughly an acre pond on his property, along with the houses, his houses and his barns and whatnot. I don't know how he could possibly get to the 10 acres that would make it an appropriate modified farm. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is this Robert Gordon,
Albert Gordon?
Albert Gordon.
Yes, sir.
How you doing? I just came to kind
State your name.
of Albert Gordon, 8815 No Elms Road.
Thank you.
I came tonight to, I guess, apologize to my neighbors if I've offended them in some way. I did not intend on causing anyone harm or us having to be here tonight. So I apologize to all of you for having to deal with this. However, some of the things that others have said are not quite true. Currently on 8815 New Elms Road, there are three pigs on the entire 15 acres. As far as cattle, we have 5 cows, 4 goats, about 40 chickens. There was a time in my learning to farm that I did have too many pigs. I didn't realize that pigs breed very fast. They have a lot of babies and you have to deal with that. We've dealt with it. I've had conversations with Mr. Humphries about it. But as far as being recognized to be told, or I am all about being at one with my neighbors. Some of them are here tonight and they'll tell you that. I've been told what to do with my land since the day I moved home to it by a certain neighbor. And I'm not going to comply with anyone's other than this council's recommendations. I haven't done anything to harm anyone, and anything that has been brought to my attention has been dealt with quickly. Other than that, like I said, I came here to apologize, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to read some scripture. It seems to be the only thing that gives me peace of mind, and give me 1 second. Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace of Christ Jesus, and the things that thou hast heard of me from among many witnesses, and say, commit thy faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No man warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. And if a man also strive for mastery, yet he has crown, except he strive lawfully. I don't intend to break the law. I don't intend to harm my neighbor. But if my neighbor thinks that I'm not going to provide for my family, or if my neighbor thinks that when grocery stores were empty 2 years ago, that means that I'm not allowed to have chickens that I raise and slaughter, give to some of my neighbors here. I'm just not going to comply with that. I appreciate your time, and I apologize.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Zabel?
We're good now.
Okay. Do you have no further comments?
This is our time for comments, so
Yes. Welcome.
this is our time for comments. You do a better job.
My name is Phyllis Walsh Zabel, and I'm actually from 1017 Cyrus Edwards Road, which is not part of the Fairview. And I'm here as a friend to the folks here. And I'm also a small farmer, if that counts for anything. But what I was wanting to speak on is just the idea of commercial hog farming versus hobby farming, family farming, and there's quite a difference between that, as you probably know, anyone in agriculture's being a great agricultural county, Union County, most of us are familiar with farming. The large factory farms of pretty much any animal are sort of gross and disgusting, and there have been many times when these have caused issues with our environment. I know other folks who do raise small numbers of livestock, family farms, and as long as the animals have lots of room, are cared for well, you're not looking at the impacts that you find in commercial operations. And I understand even the commercial operations are cleaning up their acts, but that's another thing. So that's really all I wanted to talk about.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda unless anyone would like to remove anything from the consent agenda for further discussion.
I second.
All in favor? And the consent agenda is approved. Okay, we'll move to items of business. Item number 2, discuss the code enforcement position. Mr. Hopkins.
It has, I feel like it's come to the time that I need another tool in my toolbox. Code enforcement has gotten to be more of my time here lately. The tool would be to hire a part-time as needed code enforcement officer. There is a company that provides that service, that's in focus, used them before. I will continue code enforcement as I've always done on a day-to-day basis. And we've got some complicated cases now that we didn't have in the past. But I think in focus would add to my enforcement on an as-needed basis for complicated ones. Our attorney has been involved with InfoFocus and their code enforcement, so she's aware of it. There is a gentleman with InfoFocus, John Gates, who has been there for some time. He's got several code enforcers that work under him. So I think it's now time to, like I say, put that in my toolbox to have. The town of Unionville uses them. Sonia, has been real pleased with their, the work they've done for her. They have spent approximately $10,000 a year on the code enforcement. She does not do any code enforcement at all. She just passes it on to them. So I think the expense would be probably a little bit less here. Cannot guarantee that because I don't know what code enforcing would be necessary over the next year. But I am recommending to you to approve the contract as you have read with InfoFocus, and of course approve the mayor, or give the mayor the authority to sign the contract. You can see on page 24, the last paragraph on 24. I don't know what I was drinking at the time I wrote this, but the last thing says, and get the attorney to sign the contract authority, which doesn't make any sense. It's the mayor to sign the contract, or give the mayor the authority to sign the contract. Questions?
I think it's important to emphasize that this will not be an employee. This will be on a contract basis. And that you'll continue to handle the simple cases in-house and anything with any complicated case you'll farm out to InfoFocus.
I think it's true that they ought to know too that you and I counsel on those things also.
And I can attest to the fact that that Ed and I discuss many of these things, and it does take up more and more of his time, and one of my time's not that important, but it does take up a lot of our time getting involved in this code enforcement.
We need to have any, and it may be in the contract, like I said, are there any provisions that we have to have if we don't have already, where it allows the code enforcers to correspond directly with the attorney? They don't have to go through you, they can go directly. That's something
That's a
that would be
good question.
important.
I would think that if there's conversations to be had, that it would be with both of you.
I would too. Anything needs to be run through here.
I would say that was a good question, though. I did not ask that. Melanie has worked in the past with them. It feels very, very good about them, so.
The attorney did bring up the issue of being named as an additional insured, and I think that's something we can add into the contract, and I'll initial that. They will have their own insurance, they'll have their general liability and workers' comp insurance, but we do want to be named as an additional insured, so we can add that to the contract.
I think another good point is, and this is very easy to say, the ordinance says how we should handle something, and we do that. But me not doing it every day, I'm not the professional who's been trained in it, and I don't know sometimes what time is best to do what. I know there's a problem. How do you get to the solving of the problem? I may go this way, and a coach says, hey, I've been doing this for years. The best way is to go this way.
And I think when you're using someone who does this every day, day in and day out, we're probably going to have a better outcome than in most cases. Any questions of it? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
I move that we approve the contract with the changes that have been suggested and give give the mayor the authority to sign.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to item number 3, discuss approve the lighting around the park pond. Gary, you want to tell us what's been done on that so far?
This has been since the pond is, since the park has been since the initial conception and the attorney first opened it up. It's always been suggested that the popularity of it would be better at some point in time from the security and other reasons to have the lighting around the pond. And so we, Ed and I met with a member of the park committee and Duke Power and got their suggestions on what would be a possible solution to lighting around the pond. And we've got that feedback. We have some questions as far as those that walk with Duke Power that need to be answered before we can go further with doing this. I'd like to make the motion that we establish a committee that I've done one myself and the mayor and Ed, did you want to be involved with that too? Or Mike Minnis?
I can, or Mike, or Jerry.
Jerry
And then Mike.
and Mike and you and me, I think.
The 4 of us go out and meet with Duke Power people once again and let them explain what their quote was and how they would do it, and allow us to have the time to figure out what exactly they have in mind. And in lieu of that, to save the time for the people who would want this, when and if we could do it and can afford it, that we set a limit as part of this motion that this committee can go ahead and sign a contract with Duke Power not to exceed $25,000 to complete the lighting around the pond project.
Okay, we have a motion. Before I ask for a second on that, I did have some questions about this and talked with Gary about it. As part of their email back to Ed, they had mentioned boring part of this. I'm not sure where they plan to bore or where they plan to open cut the trench. Jerry and I both agree that it looks like it's running across the drain field for the septic tank, so we're gonna have to move that. And the overall bid that they gave us was $19,575.41. But it does leave a few questions, so that's what we're trying to do, is to get all this cleared up with Duke Power and make sure that everybody's on the same page and we know exactly what we're going to be doing and what Duke is going to be doing. And Also, you want to include in your motion, Gary, that we get bids on the outlets around the park as well.
Yeah, the event committee also mentioned that they would like, for future festivals and park to have access for those people, vendors and so forth, to have access to, outlets, rather than portable generators and drop boards and all that, that we, after we get quotes, to be able to have, outlets installed. So you want the same committee to meet with those people as well?
And bring back council recommendation.
But that won't come under the 25, that'll be totally separate, we'll bring recommendations back. So that will be the, include that in the motion.
Okay. We have a motion, is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? And the motion carries. Okay, we'll move to council comments. Gary, do you have anything? Tricia?
I felt privileged to be able to attend the economic summit a couple of weeks ago. That's always, excuse me, always a learning experience. Other than that, I'm good.
Okay. Jerry?
We're starting to get people out a little earlier now in the mornings in the park, because they're coming in, they're there at 7 o'clock now, since it's starting to get daylight. And, but I've only got one thing I'm a little concerned, because we did not discuss, and I thought we did, but we did not discuss a party grant when we were working on this, trail grant. I think it would have been a good thing if we could have done it and gotten it in. Trail grant could have been used as matching funds rather than our money. And I think we could possibly got enough to totally finish that trail. Right now, we wouldn't have time to get it in and get the meetings that would be required to have in order to get it to pass. Unless they move the time back as far as when you gotta be submitting. I just wish we hadn't done that and got a little more for our money out of these grants. I think we fell short on this one.
Okay, I want to comment. And for those who aren't aware, I'm speaking to the council, which is aware that, we received $250,000 towards the park. And the things that the residents would like to have, that $250,000 will not accomplish that in a quick manner. I was hoping that those people here tonight and could express that, contact your North Carolina representatives and other people that provided the initial money, contact them and tell them what you would like to do, thank them for it, but ask for additional money, and we'll be doing the same thing, and maybe we can get it done quick. See if they could have successful park is what we like to have done, otherwise it'll be a while. We'll be able to accomplish everything that the town of Fairview needs and desires.
Teresa, you have anything?
No.
Darryl? Spencer? Ed?
One quick thing, we did, Teresa, mainly Teresa and I, we are now able to take credit cards over the website. We think that's pretty important. We're becoming more and more convenient to who we deal with, but I think that's a great technology feat that now we can do that. Most small towns can't do that.
That is an improvement. I had a few things I wanted to mention. I thought the Groundhog Economic Summit was very good too. It's always good to get experts' opinions on where the economy is going. It looks like most of them think we're going to go further into recession the rest of this year. The park trail's been marked. Gary and Mike Medlin and I walked it with the contractor in Manish a couple of weeks ago. Each year I'm asked to do a boundary and annexation survey. Basically, it's a formality for the Census Bureau to verify that we haven't annexed anything into the town. That's been done. I want to remind council, if you're registered for the elected official reception this Thursday That'll give us a chance to talk with our representatives and senators. It's at 5:30 to 7 at the Ag Center this Thursday, if you registered for that. We did have the roof replaced here in December. By statute, we're required to take the lowest responsible bidder, and that's what we did. We awarded that to Snyder Roofing. They came in and stripped the roof and put the roof back on in one day, and as far as I can tell, did a great job on that. Reminder for the planning retreat on February 25th, 8 to 12, will be a workshop that we'll use for planning. Teresa sent each of you a critical intersection email. Bjorn Hanson's going to be here in March to talk about that, but I would suggest that you go in and review that data on critical intersections. Legislative goals we voted on in January. I did send that on to the legislature. Band Booster Barbecue is February 18th this week. So, we support the band each year. I would suggest that if you can, you go out and support the band and their barbecue. And that's all I've got. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. I want to thank everyone for being here